So, just wrapping up another week of a lot of Zoom calls, working with clients all over the world. So, Fridays, I like to kind of kick back, unwind a little bit, and enjoy a nice whiskey and, of course, a fine cigar. So, today I'm having a Bunnahabhain Struder. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. It's an Isla whiskey, but it's not peated. I really do enjoy peated whiskies, but really only when, if I'm pairing it with a cigar, only when I'm having it with a fairly mild cigar. Something very full-bodied tends to, I find, really conflict a little bit with peatiness of an Isla whiskey or another peated whiskey. So I tend to really lean more towards non-peated when I'm having a more full-bodied cigar. So the Bunnahabhain, it's a non-age statement, non-chill filtered, uncolored, and it's finished in sherry casks. And you don't really see that too much in the color. It's it's not very deep, not very tawny in color, but it's been finished in sherry casks, and it's again non-age statement, non-chill filtered, and but a lovely whiskey, creamy, sweet. You get honey on this. You do get some very creamy vanilla notes with this whiskey. It is bottled at 46.3%. So anything above 40, I like to add just a little bit of water to it, and you should start seeing, and I'm seeing it now, that Scotch mist you want to see, where the water combines with the oils from the wood, from the cask. So you're seeing I'm not sure if you can see it from there, you're seeing some of the cloudiness in the whiskey, which I think is really kind of testament to its origin and to how it was produced. But a lovely expression from Bunnahabhain. And again, I'm having it with a Perdomo sun-grown 10th anniversary. This is a Nicaraguan Puro from the Perdomo line. Perdomo calls this an Epicure. It's a Toro, 6x56, I believe, ring gauge. So it's really a super robusto. But again, I find I can't go wrong with a Perdomo. When I'm looking for a bit more of a premium cigar, it's really my go-to in terms of New World premium. I love the Perdomo lineup. So I'm just gonna kick back for an hour or so, enjoy this cigar and enjoy this whiskey. But I wanted to kind of do a bit of a refresh as to what this channel's about, and why I've kind of relaunched this channel, why I'm restarting or refocusing. And I think a lot of it's a lot of things coming together, right? I've spent my entire life working either for myself, for a company. I was in the army, and I've worked and worked and worked, and the world has gone nuts. The world is going absolutely crazy. I don't want to get into a whole political discourse, but the world is going absolutely insane, and we're living in such a transient, throwaway world now, where nothing seems sacred, nothing seems worthy of holding on to anymore. We throw everything away. We abandon traditions. We forget our history, and so really, I think I've reached a point in my life, and maybe some of you can hear what or understand what I'm saying. Reached a point in my life where I'm just, I'll be honest, guys, I'm done. I'm done with the rat race. I'm done with the corporate world. I'm still in it. The work I do, I'm still very much involved in it. But by being so involved in what I do for so long, I just realized just how, I don't want to say pointless it all is, but nothing has changed in this in terms of what I do specifically, and maybe I'll do another video on that later on. I find not only has nothing changed, it's just getting worse. People are just playing this BS game, and so it's forced me, or it's taken me to a point now where I want something a little more deeper and enriching. And so this channel really is my seeking to explore more those things in life which for generations and generations gave people meaning in terms of quality products, in terms of substance and quality. It's trying to find those parts, those things that still exist, where we can talk about craftsmanship, where we can talk about people who have developed a skill, developed an art form in one form or another over their entire lives, and they're holding true to that. And I find that is so well expressed in the world of whiskey, in the world of cigars, wine, men's fashion. I don't know much about women's fashion, but men's fashion, in terms of, if you look at the tailors of Savile Row and you read the history of these tailor shops, something that they've done and perfected for literally hundreds of years now. And it doesn't have to be about things that are expensive. Unfortunately, a lot of these things are very expensive. I have a video up about Floris, the perfumery in London, and it's not the cheapest. They're not the cheapest things in the world. Cigars, depending on where you live, are not the cheapest things in the world, especially when you're talking about tax. Whiskey is not the cheapest thing in the world, although I find if it's spending 40, 50 pounds, say 70, $80 on something which can last quite a long time is a pretty good deal. But it's not about the money. It's really not about the flashiness. A lot of these brands, most people have never heard of. I mean, ask 100 people how many have heard of Floris, and I doubt many will be able to answer you. But it's not about the money. It's about heritage. So for example, when the first spot I hit when I'm back in London is a restaurant called Manz's. And if anybody knows, Manz's, it's a traditional, it used to be called an eel house. It's a pie and mash shop where they serve very traditionally made meat pies with mashed potatoes and parsley. I'll just say it, gravy, although you don't or ever call it gravy, it's called liquor. So pie, mash, and liquor, it's very much a working class food. And my family grew up on this. I grew up on this food. And for me, this restaurant, the one I go to, has been around since the late 1800s. And they're doing it exactly the same way. It's about holding on to these things. It's about not losing these things, which is what this channel's about. It's exploring how no matter at what level we are, we can explore quality in our lives. We can explore products and brands and a lifestyle aesthetic that has meaning. Because really, in day-to-day life now, I don't find much meaning. I was watching a YouTube video earlier today, and about a girl who's house hunting in the UK, and she was in the small town or the small village of Rye, which is about 30 minutes east of Hastings on the south coast. And the thing that really jumps out, and anybody who travels to Europe from North America will see this. Nothing here is meant to last or is built to last. Everything is destroyed and torn down and replaced with new and ugly. Yet you go back to these older towns, older villages, and the architecture is just as it was, 200, 300, 400 years ago. One of my favorite pubs in London is the George Inn, off the Borough High Street, which, has been around since Shakespeare's time. It's not a flashy bar, but it's a nod to the past of how people used to live in this insane, fast-moving world where there is no quality. Traditions are rejected, and heritage is something that nobody discusses anymore. So that's what this channel's about. It's about exploring those things, and the more I'm moving away from the corporate world, the more I'm moving towards exploring something I think that for me gives me a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. And I'm a lover of history. I absolutely love history. Unfortunately, when I was at university, I studied what would help the work I was doing at the time. So at the time, I started university. I initially enrolled in political science, so I read politics, and I at the same time I was in the intelligence branch of the Canadian Forces. So that kind of shaped my postgraduate studies, or no, my graduate studies, my master's studies, and studying terrorism, how small groups fight big governments. And so that's what I was really interested in, because it was somewhat aligned to what I was doing professionally. If I could go back again, if I could go all the way back again, I would study art history. I would study history. I would study, that's reflecting now how I'm feeling, perhaps. But that's what I'd go back and do. Hindsight's a great thing, right? If you could only go back to your 20s, 30s, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently? So Perdomo, a little bit peppery. Um, there's mixed reviews about the Perdomo 10th anniversary sun grown. There's some really good reviews, some not so great reviews, but I find it a fantastic, fantastic smoke. I've been letting the Bonahaven sit for a little bit to see how the flavors develop. Sweet. That's the first thing that hits you is sweet. Honey, I'm getting vanilla ice cream. Really creamy. I'm getting a lot of cream on this one, clotted cream. It's smooth. It is really, really smooth. And it complements the spiciness of the Perdomo really well. They balance each other out really well. So that's what this channel's about. It's about exploring I think a quieter way of life, a reasoned way of life, if I can say that. So hopefully I'll be doing a lot of videos. Of course, I'll be always whiskey and cigars, talking about those, but showing what I'm doing to kind of to slow things down. And it's not to slow things down in terms of retiring. It's about finding the quality in the moment. It's about truly grasping life in the moment. So I've got some plans to start vegetable gardens. I want to raise chickens. Lisa, the lovely Lisa, said we're not having chickens. Um, if we live somewhere else, maybe, and we weren't, didn't travel as much as we did, then perhaps that would be something we would do. But it's about slowing things down. It's about quality. It's about not going to the supermarket and buying bad food. It's about going to local farms, local producers, and seeking quality in our food. It's really about just slowing it down, just taking a break and finding the quality in the moment, if that makes any sense whatsoever. We're not here for a long time, right? We truly are not here for a long time. And I think if we spend all of that time just rushing from point to point to point to point, and all we're doing is working so that we can get to the next point where we have to work more, it's not, for me, it's not a life lived. It's not a life well lived. And that seems in today, in Canada and in the UK, that's all we're doing is we're working, we're living just to work. We're We finish work, we get home, we sleep for a few hours, get up and do it all again, just to pay the mortgage, just to pay the car payments, just to pay the bills. That's all we're doing. There's so little quality. There's no time to truly enjoy the moment. My parents live in Turkey. They decided to move to Turkey a number of years ago, and they live in a beautiful small town overlooking the Greek islands, which wrap around where they live. And I know they're retired, but people that live there just seem happy. You know, they're not working just to pay bills. They're not doing that anymore. People are not working just to pay bills. I know this all sounds very, pie in the sky, but it's possible. I feel that it's truly possible to get more balance in our lives. And if that balance is found in stopping and enjoying a cigar, planting some vegetables, browsing the local farmers market, just turning off the TV, turning off the internet, if that's what we have to do, there's nothing wrong in those things. There's nothing wrong with the internet. Of course, this wouldn't be happening without the internet, without YouTube. But it's about balance. It's about finding meaning and quality and enjoyment in the moment, to stop and to pull out as many of those moments as possible. That's what this channel's about, if any of that makes any sense whatsoever. So, the next little while for me, I'm really looking at how I'm spending my professional life. Of course, I've still got responsibilities. There's still the bills to pay. There's still the tax man to contend with, and the continual increasing of costs. There's still that to deal with. But I'm really at this point now in my life trying to find another way. I see way too many people. So many people I know have said, you know what? I work remotely. I work online. They packed up and they moved their families to Mexico. They've moved their families to Florida, to Alabama, where the taxes are not insane, where the weather is conducive to actually not being hunkered down for 6 months of the year. There's too many people doing that now, showing that another way of life is possible. It truly is possible. So this is what this channel's about: substance, style, and quality. It's not about expensive things and about flashiness. It's about finding quality moments in a very cluttered world. That's what I'm trying to do here. So right now, this quality moment is a Bunnahabhain, a Perdomo. I'm going to sit back, I'm going to relax, and just take an hour off before, I check the messages again and head into the weekend. And again, a weekend of, there is some work to do, but trying to be very conscious now about how much time I do spend working, because we don't get a second chance at this. They say you only live once. Well, you know what? You only die once. We live every day. And that's what this channel is hoping to try to show, that every day we can find quality, we can find enjoyment in whatever it is we decide to do. And at the same time, talk about some great products, some great brands that I'm very passionate about, some great whiskey brands, cigar brands, and some of the things that I personally find, that I enjoy. It might not be for everybody, but things that I enjoy that I hope to share with everybody. So, I'd love it if you could subscribe to this channel and follow me on the journey, and we'll see where it goes. I do got some great ideas. There's some trips coming up, going back home, some things I hope to be doing. So, hopefully you'll stick with me on this journey. But, let me know what you think. What are you doing now to find quality or meaning in life? How do you seize the moment? How do you stop and enjoy and reflect? So this is wide open. This channel could go in so many different directions, but overall, that's really what this channel is. That's a nice whiskey. Adding the water in it, you're not getting that heavy hit of alcohol. I've got some others. I'm looking at them over there. Some others I'll be reviewing. I've got a Japanese. I think it's 56%. Anything like that, definitely I'm adding water to, and I'm toning it down. No ice, just a bit of water, just to mellow it out just a little bit. I added I think about 10 milliliters to this one, between 5 and 10. Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there for now. But yeah, just wanted to do a quick kind of, again, what this channel is all about. Somewhat reintroduce myself, and and introduce you again to one of my favorite brands, Perdomo, with this wonderful Bunnahabhain. It is sweet, man. Oh man, that's lovely. Yeah, that's a lovely, lovely whiskey. If you haven't tried it, Bunnahabhain, Struvader. I know I've pronounced that. I've massacred the pronunciation, but 46.3%. It's an Islay non-peated whiskey. If you haven't tried it, you know what? I'd give this one a shot. All right, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. And, please, if you haven't, I would truly you consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell so that you're notified when I do add another video. And until that video, take care of yourselves.